Hello, this is Ed Spicer, and today I interview Holly Black, best-selling urban fantasy master. Thanks for stopping by. Hello, Holly Black, and welcome to www.spicyreads.org.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's my pleasure. Holly, since you are here with Brilliance Audio to record the audiobook for The Poison Eaters and Other Stories, I reread most of those deeply and delightfully twisted tales, and in one of those books, Tanya comments to the effect that Tolkien, Harry Potter, fantasy, etc., is not really intended for her or her friends. She says, "Seriously? Reading that stuff would depress me? People like us, we're not in those kinds of books. They're not for us." So, did The Hobbit, with not a single woman character, make you feel left out?
You know, actually, as a kid, I don't remember ever thinking about that. I remember completely identifying with Bilbo. You know, when I was reading Lloyd Alexander and I was reading The Book of Three, I think I identified as much with Taran as with Elenwe. I didn't have that feeling. What Tanya meant, actually, was that bad kids and poor kids didn't have any place in fantasy. That's what she was suggesting. I think she's wrong. That particular story is a story about somebody losing faith that they belong in those kind of stories, and and destroying somebody else's hope that they can be part of it too. There are a lot of times when I felt like, as I got to be a teenager and as I, had a somewhat grittier life than the high fantasy life that I had read about, that I was looking for books that reflected that life. And I think they're out there, but they were harder for me to find. And I had a period of kind of disconnection, and that's one of the things I really love about urban fantasy, is that it takes those high fantasy tropes and brings them into the modern day and brings kind of modern complications into them.
Yeah. In your books, and I met you through Tithe, outsiders, GLBTQ characters, self-abusive, non-white characters, all of these folks are trying to carve out a place for themselves. So what were you like as a teen?
Well, I don't know that I was such a bad kid, but I had a lot of friends who were, let's say, hoodlums. I had a lot of friends who did some bad things. And
this is part of that author intention.
I have friends who went to jail. I have friends who are now dead. When I sat down to write a fantasy novel, I made a commitment to write about things that I knew and about spaces that I felt hadn't been written that much about. I think there's a lot of books that are set in suburbia, where suburbia is extremely clean, and like you have the cookie cutter houses. And my experience of suburbia was that it was a wild place full of abandoned spaces and
broken down cars.
Yeah, and that there was this aspect, this sort of magical aspect of the way nature took over those abandoned spaces that I was really interested in. And I wanted to write about the people I grew up with and the places I had grown up in.
As a reader, I prefer realistic fiction. Consequently, I tended to avoid fantasy. So back in 2002, I had to read Tithe. And when I started reading it, I realized that I was reading my favorite genre. I recommend Rules for Survival to fans of your modern fairy tale and vice versa. So have you found a sisterhood with those lovers of gritty realism? Have you met teens that tell you that they only read realistic?
Absolutely. One of the great things about fantasy that's set now is that for people who don't like fantasy, often it's the gateway drug to fantasy. So welcome.
So you're the crack for the high fantasy.
Exactly. That's, we transition them in, and that way they go to The Hobbit. I love gritty realism. Lauren Miracle's Shine. I love Monster. I love Barry Lyga's Boy Toy. I love all of Joe Knowles' work. Absolutely, feel a kinship to books that are that try and tell the truth.
Despite the fact that your edgy, sexy books feature such defiant, modern, urban characters, you go all Victorian goth and younger on us with the Spiderwick Chronicles. I see this love-hate relationship between tradition and the wish for a brand new diversity-loving society. It must be weirdly awesome to have the paradox of fringe characters be so best-selling mainstream.
it's very weird when you think of yourself as sort of an outsider. Then people actually really like what you wrote. Really?
Lots of them.
I did not expect that at all. They say that in the extremely specific is the universal, and I think all you can do is try and write about the stuff you love and about the stuff you care about, and hope that will translate to other people.
Okay. Is Blackheart done?
Blackheart's done.
Woo-hoo-hoo.
The copy edits are not done.
And so, what new projects can we expect from the fingers of Holly Black?
Well, I'm not entirely sure that I'm done with the Curse Workers. I maybe could do another one. There's actually a middle grade that I have been meaning to work on for a long time. It's called Doll Bones, and it is a road trip to bury a doll, and it's about that time in your life when you're just getting the sense that maybe you have to give up playing with your toys.
You met and talked to people like Charles DeLint, sort of urban fantasy masters as well, and you get around and plan car crashes. What drugs to steal next.
Well, I've been really lucky. I have met Charles DeLint, and the first time I met him, I nearly passed out and started to cry. I think it was very embarrassing for him. And I spent a lot of time with Ellen Kushner and Terry Windling.
I love their series. I think they do.
On an anthology of new Bordertown stories, and it was the biggest honor ever. I went to Devon and actually spent some time with Terry and got to really talk to her. And I've been a fan of Ellen's work, been a fan of her work. So. And
Bordertown just came out.
Bordertown just came out. It was so great to be able to work on it, and also to work with a whole generation of writers like me who were influenced by those stories, like Kat Valente and Cory Doctorow, who were really excited to write in that world.
Okay, Holly Black, thank you so much for appearing on www.spicyreads.org. It's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure being here.
Once again, I'm Ed Spicer, and this is www.spicyreads.org. I hope you enjoyed my interview with Holly Black. Thanks for stopping by. Pin on. Is it unicorns or zombies?
No, yes, we are Team Zombie. I mean, we are Team Unicorn. You brainwashed me somehow.
You got that on cord.
No, we're Team Unicorn forever.